Good evening, future Maryland home buyers. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Jackie Muick, Consumer Advocacy and Website Manager for Maryland Realtors. I want to welcome you to the Your Home Buying Keys webinar for February. Assembled tonight, we have experts in the industry. With us is Yolanda Muckle, a realtor with Long & Foster, Alex Roldan, a lender from Equity Resources, Inc., and Frank Bamunde from Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, also known as DHCD. Tonight, you will get an abundance of information to help you navigate and succeed in your home buying journey. This webinar will be recorded and sent out to attendees next week. We encourage your questions and we are looking forward to answering them. So please, as you think of them, feel free to add them to the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And with that, I will turn it over to our realtor, Yolanda.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm super excited that you decided to join us today, and I'm going to share my screen with our slides for us to get started. So welcome to your home buying journey. As stated, my name is Yolanda Muckle. I'm a realtor with Long & Foster. I've been a realtor almost 23 years, so how time flies. And I was the president of Maryland Realtors. So today, we're going to talk about turning a dream of home ownership into a reality so that we can empower you with the knowledge and confidence to make the informed decision moving forward. Choosing the right realtor. I often have clients who say, wow, I went out and I took a look at this property and that property and went to open houses. Well, with doing that, you don't have someone actually representing you. So it's really important to find someone who truly is going to listen and understand your needs. Expect a full service representation from start to finish, not just opening the door, but actually guiding you through the process as far as with market knowledge, negotiation, paperwork, and support. And one important thing that I must say is that if you want someone to actually represent you as a buyer, you must sign an actual buyer-broker agreement before touring properties. That is the law. So with that being said, if someone just opens a door and lets you go into a property and it's not an open house, they are breaking the law because they were required to have you sign upfront an actual buyer-broker agreement so that they can explain what they're actually doing for you. Next, why own a home? Good question. That's to build wealth. Instead of just having a savings account and renting a property, you can have equity as far as with every single year, hopefully you'll gain equity as far as the property values increase. Stability and control. If you are renting, you can't do a lot to that property without actually the landlord allowing you to do it. So with that being said, they're the ones who are in control, not you. When it comes to tax benefits, certainly talk to your accountant, but at this time, especially now that we're filing taxes, if a person owns a home, there's interest that they can actually deduct on their particular taxes. And pride in ownership, the joy of truly calling this place your own. Know your finances and get pre-approved. You may want to check your credit score. I know that there's myfico.com. A lot of people will mention Credit Karma, and our lender will talk to you about that. But with that being said, you would like to have an idea of what your credit score is when it comes to gathering documents, not just going online and saying, hey, this is how much I make, but you should gather your pay stubs, your tax returns, your bank statements, so you can have everything ready. And so that you can get pre-approved. I've often had clients say, well, why can't I get approved in a matter of minutes? Well, they're not pre-approved. That's just giving them a pre-qualification potentially on what they can buy. Finding your home. Prioritize needs versus wants. A lot of times my clients will come to me and say, I want to live close to DC, near the metro, and all of these things that they want. But then when it comes down to what they can afford, they get disappointed. So you really want to just prioritize, what do I really need to have versus what I want to have? And you should do your research. I often tell my clients, if you're interested in what's going on with the schools, do your research on that, safety, commuting times, and actually visit that particular neighborhood, not just during the day, but in evenings, on the weekends, because as a realtor, there are certain things that we really cannot talk about because of the fact that that's a subjective of what we think. So you certainly should do your research. And there's a lot of online tools and that sort of thing, which comes to the next as far as tools. Online listings and open houses give you a head start on your search. And also just leverage your realtor. By selecting a realtor, you can ask them where you should find certain information. Making an offer in negotiations. I actually love to make offers and negotiate because you really need to have someone who is strong with the negotiations. It would be great if as soon as you put an offer in, the seller accepts it, and next thing you know, you don't have to negotiate. But with that being said, a lot of times you do have to negotiate. So you need to have your pre-approval. We submit the offer, we negotiate the terms. Do you want to have a home inspection? And I definitely recommend home inspections. I mean, I know a lot of times people will say, well, if you do as is, you may actually get the house. But with that being said, you don't know what is behind the walls and what's going on. And you don't want to invest all of this money in a property and then have no idea that, for example, when you turn on the shower and you also turn on the sink in the kitchen, that there's water potentially coming out of pipes and that sort of thing. So you want to have your home inspection. And after that, you will go back to the seller if there's anything that you would like to have fixed, which is the next thing about the home inspection. So you have the home inspection and the appraisal protects you as well. The appraisal is where the appraiser hired by the bank that you pay for goes out to the property and they look at what comparable properties have sold for to give you an idea of what the house is actually worth. Closing the deal, what to expect at closing. Closing is the final step where home ownership officially transferred to you. You will have a closing agent, which is also called the title attorney. We have the lender and the realtor, and just come prepared with questions that you want to ask because you're going to be required to sign documents and pay closing costs, which includes title search, insurance, taxes, and lender fees. Common questions and helpful resources as far as down payment requirements. There's various loans. There's VA, USDA, FHA, conventional, and our lender partner will go over those details. As far as typically closing costs explained would be between 2 and 5% of the purchase price. So there are down payment assistance programs for first-time homebuyers, especially here in Maryland. And we have trusted professional networks of lenders, inspectors, insurance agents. So we're here to support you. So with that being said, we're ready to start your home buying journey. My name again is Yolanda Muckle. My number is 301-455-9081. Jackie's going to send out that information afterward, and I look forward to helping and assisting you and answering any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yolanda.
You're welcome.
I am not currently seeing any Q&As in this Zoom call right now, so please, any attendees, if you have any questions for Yolanda, please put them in. But Yolanda, I know you mentioned home inspections. What other kinds of inspections might there be that different buyers might be interested in, depending on their home, and how do they choose what inspections they need?
Okay, so a lot of times, first of all, if a home is built prior to 1978, there's the potential of lead-based paint. And if you have a family, children, you may want to include having a lead-based paint inspection. Another inspection that's often come up is radon. Radon is a gas that you can't see or smell. And in this area of Maryland, there's a lot of radon. So that's an inspection that people have come up with. And then depending on where it's located, the property, if it's where there's well and septic, that's another potential inspection. Most people will want to do some sort of wood destroying insects. Termites are not just the only wood destroying insects. There's carpenter bees, carpenter ants, and that's something that you may want to also put in as far as an inspection. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I'm not seeing any more Q&A, but Yolanda is able to, as far as I'm aware, stick around until the end of the webinar. So if you have any burning questions that you think of once Alex gets started, please put them in the chat and we will get to them at the end of the presentations. Thank you so much, Yolanda. And with that, Alex, take it away.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let me see. Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Good evening, all. Thank you for having me this evening. I appreciate the opportunity. And my name is Alex. I've been with Equity Resources for 12 years, and in total in the mortgage and finance industry for 25 years, coming up in April, actually. Um, I heard Yolanda talking about 23 years on the real estate side. So there's plenty of experience here. We're going to be covering today the steps of buying your first home, or probably you're planning to move up if you already have a house. The loan options for first-time home buyers, down payment assistance programs, MMP, which is Maryland Mortgage Program, and how to get pre-approved. But it's very important to actually start organized. It's really important to talk about the loan process, and the next steps are coming up in a few slides. So the pre-qualification process is one that is really a conversation. A pre-qualification process is literally just talking about the financial situation uh, every individual has. We're all different. So it is a very, it is an initial conversation where we ask certain personal questions, financial questions, of course, um, income, employment, status, uh, actually immigration status for some people, depending if they're US citizens, they're permanent resident aliens. We have programs for buyers that are looking to get their first home under special programs for people with tax ID numbers, for example. Uh, After this conversation that might take probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it doesn't take long, we can assess or have an idea where you are, financially speaking. If you're ready, we can talk about credit. Just like Yolanda mentioned, there are many sites, many services out there providing an idea where your credit scores are, Credit Karma, your bank, your banking with X Bank. You can, most of the banks are offering that service where you can look at your credit score and have an idea where you are. And those are called consumer credit scores, usually by Vantage or FICO, just like Yolanda mentioned. They're not your typical mortgage credit score. So it is a little bit different, but at least you can have an idea where you stand. Um, After we have this initial conversation, if you are ready to move on into the process, we can collect or start collecting documentation. That would be depending on your personal situation, but usually it's W-2s, pay stubs, tax returns, sometimes. Um, if you're self-employed, if you're salary. So it is really important to have a good initial conversation so we can assess what kind of documentation we will need throughout the process. It is really important to start on the right path, on the right direction from the get-go, because this will determine how smooth your process will be. If we are organized, if we know what we're doing, and we collect the right information up front, your process will be seamless, stressless. So that is what we're looking for, what we're looking after, to have a nice experience, a nice home buying experience. Is already a little bit stressful to be thinking about buying your first home. So we want to make your experience a great one. And that starts collecting the right information up front and collecting the right documentation up front. It's really important when you talk to your loan officer, if you have any wrinkles there with employment, for example, if you were off work for 45 days, that might not seem to be a big deal. However, for lenders in general, banks, financial companies, credit unions, it's really important to know if you have been out of work, let's say for 45 days or more than 30 days, longer than 30 days. If it's less than 30 days within the last 2 previous years, it's important because they're going to want to know what happened. Um, so things like that needs to come to the table and be upfront, be clear that every situation might matter to the lender. So it's important for not only you to have that type of conversation, but for the lender to ask the right questions as well. Okay, and we're gonna get to a point where we're gonna talk about what questions we can ask the lender. So moving from the pre-qualification process, the pre-approval with a lender is basically just confirming, just supporting the information that you have provided your loan officer. So if you talk about um, employment, longer than 30 days being out of work because you took a break and you were looking for new opportunities, that's fine. That's not an issue. However, it needs to come in a form of, for example, W-2s. Maybe you've had 2 jobs in the past 2 years. So you're going to need to show 2 different W-2s, and each W-2 will have to be for each employer. So, for example, if there are 2 jobs in the past 2 years, well, the loan officer or you might tell your loan officer, well, yes, I work with this company and I was off for 45 days, and then I started working for this other company, and these are my documents. So in that case, the loan officer should ask what happened within those 45 days. Um, because you're going to provide when you started working for this company or X company, and when was your last end date. So it'll match, dates will match. So basically, a pre-approval is confirming via documentation the conversation that you had with your loan officer up front. After you get all the information confirmed, and Yolanda's mentioned that someone asked, why can I get pre-approved in just minutes? Well, if you're ready with the information and you already have your documentation in place, yeah, it might take probably 20 minutes. It might take 30 minutes. But if you're not ready with everything that we need as banks to look at your financial um, background, is going to depend basically on you, how long it's going to take for you to be pre-approved. After you go through the process of confirming the information through documents, then we will provide um, the realtor, your realtor, if you're already working with a realtor, what is called the pre-approval letter. Now, at this point, uh, we can have the conversation about, do you want to have a pre-approval letter by the loan officer, or maybe even better, an underwriter looking at your information and issuing a pre-approval letter by underwriting, also known as a commitment letter with some conditions. So once you receive the commitment letter or the pre-approval letter, you're ready to start looking for a home. And that's where the fun part begins. I always tell my clients, I'm not the fun part. Actually, Yolanda is. That's where the fun part starts, actually. And you start looking at homes. Um, then you get into the contract, which Yolanda already explained. You make an offer. Well, actually, you find the house that you like. Um, you write an offer with the help of your realtor. Your offer is accepted by the seller, and then we all start working on processing your transaction. Okay, and that is the appraisal. We will order the appraisal. It is an inspection that takes place at home, at the house, just to look at the value of the property. They will measure. Now, let's not get confused with a home inspection. That's a different ballgame, where the inspector will go and inspect the property to make sure that you have no property issues, like a roof leaking, a leaking roof. You don't have water issues or plumbing issues, electrical issues in the house. That's your home inspection. The appraisal is an inspection done by a licensed appraiser, and they will determine based on comparables and properties sold in the area for the past 6 months within certain radius of the property. It will tell you how much the property is valued for. Then we'll order your title work and the homeowner's insurance. Okay. Once we go through all of that, 30 days gone by, and we go to your closing, and then we provide the funds to buy the property. So usually, what do we want to know as buyers? There are really three important numbers, and it's really simple. How much do I qualify for? How much money do I need? And what will be my monthly payment? And those questions will be answered throughout the entire process because numbers move when you're buying a home. There is something called the loan estimate worksheet that we will work throughout the pre-approval process along with your documentation, and we will arrive depending on how much debt you have or liabilities, credit card debt, auto debt, all your liabilities per month, which is important. It's not how much you owe, because you might owe $10,000 on a credit card. But if your monthly payment is only $100, that could be acceptable. Okay. I've seen car payments for $1,500. That's a little bit high for a car payment. So that's going to affect the purchase of the house. As a buyer, what should we ask the loan officer? Well, I think this transaction is all about communication. It is the most important transaction in your life. It is a lot of dollars, but it's also emotional. It is emotional, and you want to have enough information as you go along throughout the process um, with good communication from everybody, from all the parties involved, helping you, walking you throughout the process. Great communication. So I think it's important for us to ask the loan officer, how do you communicate? Do you communicate via text? Do you communicate via email or a phone call? How does the loan officer interact with us? And also, we should tell the loan officer, well, don't call me during the day because I'm working. I think that's important, and it helps the process. How often do you communicate? How often would you like to be communicated upon? So it is important to have the first setup the right way so everything goes smooth throughout the transaction. What type of fees should I expect? The loan officer should be able to explain that there are two main sets of numbers: down payment and closing cost. So the closing cost is lender fees, credit report fee, uh, property taxes, how much, transfer taxes we're going to pay, an escrow account. Your loan officer should be able to explain what an escrow account is. How does the monthly payment work? What's entailed on a monthly payment? What are the components of it? That's really important. What is the best loan type to fit my needs? Should I choose a fixed rate or an ARM, that is an adjustable rate mortgage, or a variable rate mortgage? Should I get pre-approved first? Definitely. That's the first. Explain what the mortgage process entails in detail, okay? And what happens at closing. I think those are the questions that we should be asking your loan officer. Next, what affects your buying power? So how much can I buy? Um, and those factors that affect your buying power are your credit scores, definitely your income, employment history might, but definitely your income and your monthly liabilities. Those are the main factors that will determine your buying power, how much you can buy, okay? And typical, the first time buyer benchmarks are your credit scores. Usually we can do when you are just about 600 plus credit scores, depending on the program. Maryland Mortgage Program has great numbers, great information. Frank will go over that with you. And there are assisting options available for you to qualify. What do we offer? Well, FHA loans, conventional loans, VA, and USDA loans. We have many other programs, construction to permanent loans. We have renovation loans. We have doctor loans. We have many options, many programs available. DSCR loans for investors. But the main programs out there are four: conventional, FHA, VA, and USDA. Down payment assistance programs that provide financial help to reduce the cost of buying a home up front. There is a myth out there. Do we need 20% down payment to buy a house? A lot of people believe that that's the case when it's not. I have done a few transactions already that clients are buying with $1,000. Okay, it's not your norm, but it could happen depending on the negotiation, as Yolanda was saying, that can take place with the seller and depending on your loan officer, of course. Flexible eligibility options, gift funds, flexible income documentation, depending on your situation, that can be talked to about with the loan officer. And specialized loan programs, like I mentioned to you before, construction to perm, non-warrantable condos. We have many other programs available. Conventional loans. We don't have Freddie Mac here or Fannie Mae, but they have a program called Home Possible or Home Ready, that if you're a first-time home buyer, you can buy with only 3% down payment, which is 0.5% less than FHA. Now, what are the minimum credit scores that you need for these programs? Conventional loans, I always suggest to be a 680 credit score. It's not a given, it's not written in stone, but that's my feeling. That's what I advise my clients for. FHA loans, they don't discriminate when it comes to interest rate, at least not with us. So you could be at 620 credit score, and you can buy 580, even 580 credit score. We can do loans for you. Okay, USDA loans, 0% down payment. You just need to have your closing cost. Now, Maryland Mortgage Program, really interesting program. I use it all the time. Great program, great process, nothing complicated. Many people are afraid of it, especially in the real estate business, um, because I don't know, but it is a really great program. Down payment and closing cost assistance, competitive fixed rates, available on conventional, FHA, VA, and USDA. Who qualifies for a Maryland mortgage program? All first-time home buyers. Some exceptions, they don't have to be. Frank can talk more about that. Income limits, we need to meet certain income limits, but they're really high. So for example, in Prince George's County, I think the income limit is close to $150,000. So it's very flexible. They're very liberal programs, okay? And most important part, home buyer education is required. That is it could be a free online. They have some education through Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, and you can go online for free. It takes only a couple of hours to do the training. This is loan limits for 2026. I'm not going to go through this. You will have this presentation available, but if you have any questions, please feel free to call me. We have other programs like I'm showing, Equity Zero program. We can cover 100% of financing for the property. All you need to have is your down payment. So here, I will leave you with my phone number, 301-512-4425. You can text me at this number. I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please enter your Q&A information or your questions, I guess, as a normal person would say, in the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen if you have any questions for Alex. Alex, the hot topic for a few months now has been interest rates, and trying to time the market. What would you say to someone who's trying to wait for there to be a drop in interest rates, to try to get the best mortgage available?
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming, and it's a great question. A question that is asked every day. And there is really not a perfect answer for that. The perfect timing to buy a house is today, not tomorrow, because our reality is what we know, is what we have in front of us. Now, we can speculate what might happen in the future, but that's really difficult to do. Even for example, economists, everybody think that economists know the future, and they don't. That's a social science. So it's really difficult to predict interest rates. What we know is that if we're trying to time our purchase based on interest rates, we're going to lose out on property value and equity. Okay. Yolanda touched something about equity, which is really the American dream, because real estate can build tremendous wealth, especially your first home, second home, third home. I mean, so if we're trying to time our purchase based on interest rates, I suggest my clients not to, okay? Because I'm not suggesting to refinance in 12 months, 24 months, but there are financing options that can be handled for you to start building equity in your property today, not tomorrow. So, I mean, I'm just going to add one last piece here. When we're talking about interest rates and we're trying to get maybe 0.5% less, so if interest rates are at 6.5%, and we're trying to time it at 6%, or we want to get a better rate, okay? 6 months go by, and let's say it dropped to 6%, and you're saving $100 per month. A lot of people are thinking that they're going to save thousands of dollars, and it's not the case. So don't wait. I think the market is here, is today, and that's when you should be looking to buy.
Wonderful. All right. Well, we can move right along. And same as before, Alex and Yolanda will be able to stay to the end of the webinar to be able to answer any of the questions. So if you think of something, put it in the chat and we'll get to it. Frank?
All right, let me see. Let me see if I can do a screen share here. And can you guys see the Maryland Mortgage Program website?
Yes, we can.
All right. So thank you to Maryland Realtors for putting this together every month. It's a lot of work that goes into it, and I want to really thank our realtor partners and our mortgage lender, Alex, with Equity Resources. Equity Resources is a top producer with the Maryland Mortgage Program, and Alex has been doing the Maryland Mortgage Program for a long time. In fact, he's done even the Maryland Smart Buy, which we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So this is our website. It is mmp.maryland.gov. We are part of the Department of Housing and Community Development, but don't Google Maryland Department of Housing because that's going to take you to a whole different website. So you want to go to mmp.maryland.gov, and I'm just going to go down to the professional portal. That's typically where lenders go to get their information. And really, that's where you can get the information as well, because this is not restricted to anyone. This is a public website. So I'm just going to go through a couple of things that are important. And some of them are not important to you, like the contacts with MNP. Important to know when you do a Maryland Mortgage Program loan, that goes directly to your lender, through a participating lender with the Maryland Mortgage Program. So you don't actually come to the state of Maryland to obtain money directly. The money we package, we put products and programs together, and our participating lenders, such as Alex with Equity Resources, have those programs to use for home buyers to be able to use to purchase a home. So you don't need to contact us. Really, we'll just direct you to a participating lender. But you can get fact sheets on every product that we offer. And I just want to show you where things are. And all of our products are going to be 30-year fixed rates. So we don't have any adjustable rate mortgages. We don't have any buy downs. You get a 30-year fixed rate. And if you want to refinance in the future, when rates go down, you can do that. And we have different programs. We're going to talk about the programs in a little bit, in a little bit more detail, just to give you a flavor of what it is. And so we'll come back. Just wanted to show you where those are. And I want to go to our rate sheet. We're going to go under interest rates. And under interest rates, you can see our rates for today. So these are the rates that we have in effect today. Our rates come out at 10 o'clock every morning. And we have two sides to MMP. We have a first-time advantage side where you must be a first-time home buyer. There's a couple different ways you can qualify as a first-time home buyer. The first way would be if you never owned a home before, then you're truly a first-time home buyer. And that would be you haven't owned a home anywhere in the world. It's not just within the state of Maryland. It's not just within the continental United States. Okay, so be mindful of that. If you're on a deed but you're not actually living in that house, you can also qualify as a first-time home buyer. So say you're on a deed for your grandparents' house or your parents' house and you think you're disqualified. That's not true. If you don't live there, you can still qualify for the Maryland Mortgage Program as a first-time home buyer. And even if you're a veteran or active duty military, you may qualify as a first-time home buyer even if you owned the home before. Okay, so those are the three ways you can qualify directly as a first-time home buyer. And there's another way you can qualify as a first-time homebuyer, and that's if you purchase within a targeted area. And a targeted area is a designation from the federal government under which, they pick them themselves. So we just use them. They're given to us by HUD. You may have whole cities and counties that qualify as targeted areas. And if you're purchasing a home in a targeted area, you can be a first-time home buyer. That's even if you owned the home last year. Maybe you sold your house. Maybe you're buying another home because you're coming out of a divorce. Let's just say something to that effect, or you're buying down from a larger property to a smaller property. And if you want to use our programs on the first-time advantage side, and if you qualify as a first-time home buyer in a targeted area, you get better rates. See, the rates are a lot better on the first-time advantage side than they would be on the flex side. And we have more products to pick on the first-time advantage side. Now, most people that use MMP will use the first-time advantage side. Occasionally, we'll get somebody who's a repeat buyer, and they just want to buy a home, and these are the programs that we have on the flex side. But make no mistake about it, I would say 80% of the time, you're using MMP with your lender, and you're a first-time home buyer, and you're looking for a couple different things. You may be looking for just our lowest rate. Maybe you have money for down payment and closing cost assistance. So that's our lowest rate today, 5.875. Now, this rate comes with no MMP down payment assistance. But you can use down payment assistance from a city or a county. For example, Prince George's County has a program called Pathways to Purchase, where you can get up to $50,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance. You can use it in combination with MMP. So you can use their money in combination with our First Time Advantage Direct, get our lowest rate, and you can use their money. Baltimore City has products as well. Most counties and cities have their own products. So really, I could spend like 3 hours talking about this stuff. So that's the First Time Advantage Direct. No MMP DPA, just our lowest rate. You can also do an FHA 203K limited. That's a rehab loan. It's a limited rehab loan, so it's not a full rehab loan. So you buy a property that needs a little bit of help just to bring it up to standards, and it's less than $75,000 in repairs. You can do an FHA limited 203K with MMP. Okay, so and that would be the rate that you would pay right today with the First Time Advantage Direct. The 6000 series, First Time Advantage 6 or Flex 6, you can also get down payment assistance up to $6,000 in down payment assistance, but you can also get a partner match either from a city or a county or an employer or a builder. Okay, and really you don't have to know this today, but you can go back to Alex and say, I work for employer XYZ. Do I qualify for an employer match? And then it's just a matter of him getting enough information. For example, if you work for the state of Maryland, you're a state of Maryland employee, you can get an employee match from the state. So you can get another $2,500 on top of the $6,000 that you would get $8,500 in down payment assistance. Say you don't have a match of any kind, you can get 3% in down payment assistance, and those are the rates for that. You can get 4% in down payment assistance, those are the rates for that. You can get 5% in down payment assistance, and those are the rates. Now, the rates are a little bit higher, but our government rate, 6.25% with 5% down payment assistance, is a great program. So imagine that you buy a house and say it's $400,000. The average MMP home is about $360,000. But say you're buying a house and it's $400,000. Roughly, you could be getting $20,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance, and that would be your rate. Okay. Home Start is for borrowers below 50% of AMI. And if I have time, I'll go take a look at the income limits because those are important. But basically, 50% of AMI would be the borrower income, not the household. And in the DC area, it's about 81,000. And I believe in the Baltimore area, it's about 61,000. So depending where you are, and really, you don't have to know those numbers. You don't have to remember them necessarily. You just need to know that when you go back to your lender and tell them, hey, I'm below 50, I think I'm below 50% of AMI. Can I get 6% in down payment assistance? And the good thing about this Homestar product is if you're below the 50% of AMI, you get the same rate as the 3%, but it's actually double the down payment assistance. And if you're going with a conventional loan, it's actually a better rate. Instead of being 6.5, it's 6.375. We also have specialty loan products. So if you're a Montgomery County employee, you can get a MedPal loan, and that's where Montgomery County employees that work for Montgomery County government, and they have separate income limits for those. Montgomery County also has another program with us, which is for anyone who wants to purchase a home as a first-time home buyer in Montgomery County. And that's a slightly different program, but it's also through Montgomery County government. These two programs, it's not like we have a program specialty, a special program for Montgomery County. Montgomery County actually gave us the money. These are their programs. We just manage it for them. Okay. And then we have the Maryland Smart Buy. I know Alex did at least one Smart Buy or two. And a Smart Buy is a really great product. It allows first-time home buyers with student loan debt to be able to buy a home, and we'll pay up to $20,000 student loan debt, and that's forgivable over 5 years. So if you owe more than 20, you'll have to pay off the difference at closing. Okay. Let's say you owe 22, you can bring 2,000 out of your own pocket, and we'll pay off the 20,000. And if you live in the house, you have to live in the house for 5 years to get the whole 20,000 forgiven. So it's a really great program as well. As far as how much money you need when you purchase a Maryland mortgage program loan out of your own pocket, in fact, you may not need any money out of your own pocket, because the DPA, our down payment assistance, whether it's the Smart Buy 6,000 or the 6% or any of these products, that money can be used as the borrower's minimum contribution. So typically you need some money out of your own pocket for some programs, but MMP money can be used as your minimum contribution. So yes, there's some money that you have to put out up front for appraisal and home inspections and earnest money deposit, but you may be able to get all that money back at closing, because if there's enough money in down payment assistance, you may be able to get it back. So up to what they call agency guidelines. So it's not something that we manage. That's something that Alex would follow up with FHA, VA, or rural housing or conventional to find out how much of that money you can get back, because the MMP DPA covered it. So those are the good things. The not so good things is that our DPA money is not forgivable. Our DPA money must be paid back when you sell the house, refinance, or no longer live in the property. This is not free money. Back in the day, we used to have grants, and they would be here, but the rates was higher, but you didn't have to pay it back. But those days are over. Lower rates are not here right now. These are the rates that there are today, and the rates are a little bit higher. If they ever get down to the point that they go back into the threes, we may have grants again. I don't know. But at the moment, the cost of money is too high for us to have grants. If we had grants today of 3 and 4% like we did, 5 years ago, we were talking about you having to have a mortgage rate of maybe 8.5, and that just doesn't work in this market. People already feel like 6% is too much. They're not going to pay 8.5, and be able to purchase a home. So these are the products. We do about 400 loans a month. So if you snooze, you lose. So it's not. I'm not trying to tell you to go ahead and buy a house willy-nilly. If you're ready to buy a house and your credit's there and you have the income to do it, and you have a low debt load, and you're able to purchase a home today, there are programs out there that can help you buy a home. All I'm saying is that if you're waiting until rates go down, then prices just keep going up. So you never really catch up to it. So just be mindful of that. So these are the products, more or less, to give you a rough idea of it. I do want to touch on the income limits. And there's more things really when you gets down to it, when you meet with Alex or with the loan officer, they're going to walk you through the documentation that's needed for the Maryland Mortgage Program, which is standard documentation. Typically, MMP only has like a couple of affidavits that need to be completed that would be in excess of what he would need anyway in many other instances. But just to give you an idea of the income limits for MMP, now we take a look at household income limits, not just borrower income limits. So everyone in the household will need to account for the household income. But look, in the Baltimore area, we're talking about a household of 3 or more. It's up to 184,380. And in the DC area, we're talking about household of 3 or more at 229,460. So those are really high numbers. And the maximum purchase limit, Allegheny County is 524,000. In the Baltimore area is 731,000. In the DC area, we're talking about 806,500. So income limits are pretty high. The mortgage amount limits are pretty high as well. And like I said before, the typical MMP loan is about 360. Now, we do loans all over the state of Maryland. It's not just within Baltimore City. In fact, our most used county, the county that uses MMP the most is probably Prince George's County, followed by Baltimore City, Baltimore County. Montgomery County is right up there too, just because of the cost of housing being so high in those counties. They do use a lot of down payment and closing cost assistance with the Maryland Mortgage Program as well. Now, you can use it in combination with city programs and county programs. If you use county and city programs in combination with the Maryland Mortgage Program, you may have additional requirements regarding homebuyer education. Now, homebuyer education is required by MMP, but you don't have to get it until you submit the loan to us. But for counties and cities, you may need to complete that certificate prior to being under contract. So you need to work with your realtor, work with your loan officer as you get pre-approved. They'll get an idea from you what your needs are, where you're purchasing a home, and they'll guide you as to whether you should take the class before you put a contract on a home or whether you can wait until after you put a contract on a home. You can do it an online class, or you can do it through a housing counseling agency just as well. So there is a homebuyer education requirement. There are income limits. There's also an asset test. The asset test, I'm not even sure I need to talk about it. The asset test is you cannot have more than 20% of the sales price on liquid assets. So if you buy in a house that's 400,000, you can't have more than 80,000 in your checking or savings account. We're not going to count money in a 401k or retirement funds. But really, your lender would be, they take trainings with us. I'm a trainer with the Maryland Mortgage Program. So I train staff, loan officers, processors, underwriters on how to use the Maryland Mortgage Program effectively, so they can do them fast and efficiently as it is. So we list the 80% of AMI number, and that's a good number to know. If you're below these numbers in this specific, say in Baltimore City, say you have a member of the household who's disabled and is part of the household, or you're disabled yourself, we have a program called Homeability, and the Homeability product will allow somebody who's disabled or a household with a disabled family member to be able to purchase a home. And if you're below these income limits, you can get up to 45,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance. And the 45,000 can be held as a second loan that you don't have to make payments on. So you only be making payments on the first mortgage, not on the second mortgage. So it increases affordability. There would be no mortgage insurance involved in that. Now, the only thing is that you have to be below the 80%, and you have to be able to go conventional. To go conventional, your credit has to be in better shape than it will have to be with FHA. So there are programs out there. Really, you can talk to Alex about that. The 50% of AMI applies to that Homestart product that I talked to you about, where you can get 6% in down payment assistance. I misspoke. In Baltimore area, 65,000, not 61,000. It's hard to keep all these numbers together, but in the DC area, it's about 81,000. Montgomery, Prince George's, Howard County follows Baltimore area income limits, and Montgomery, Prince George's, and Charles follow DC income limits. And other programs have other income limits. So like Frederick as well follows the DC area income limits. But if you're purchasing in Washington County, which is right above it, the income limit for that program is only 47,700, and in Frederick would be 81,000. So it works really well. That product works really well in some counties, not as well in others. So those are the products. Just remember, there's money from the state for you to be able to purchase a home. About 3,500 families every year use the Maryland Mortgage Program and all the programs that we have to be able to purchase a home. And the object of the program is for you to be able to get into a home today, do the best deal that you can, get yourself into a home, and then when rates go down in the future, you can pay it down, pay it back. when you refinance, and you'll have built-in equity. Say rates come only go down a little bit, and it takes a couple of years for it to go down a point or a point and a half. Guess what? You would have bought a house today, you would have paid it down some, and you would be able to move on from there. Just to give you an example, and this is a personal example, my daughter bought her house. This was a few years ago, but she bought a house. She and her boyfriend at the time, now husband, they bought a house and they paid 176,000. 4 years later, they sold it for 240, and they moved on to the next house. So, so it's just a matter of you being able to find the property that you're able to purchase in today's environment, and then when you're able to refinance or sell the house and move into the next house, you'll be one step ahead. So that's the point of it. And I don't know that I want to say much more else. I do want to leave you a couple of minutes, Jackie, in case there are any questions that anybody has.
Thanks so much, Frank. No questions yet, but please, we are going to wrap up this webinar. Thank you all so much for being here. Frank, I do actually have one that I think might be helpful.
Sure.
And Alex, if you want to chime in as well, that would be great. Um, a lender may be able to tell you about being able to buy points on a loan. Alex or Frank, if you want to explain that, but specifically, I know that it's something that you're not able to do with the Maryland Mortgage Program rates. And Frank, I think that would be a really good thing to review and give a little bit of information about if you're able to.
Well, I think Alex can probably explain it better than me how points work, because he probably uses it. You cannot use points to buy down the rates with the Maryland Mortgage Program. All of our programs are 30-year fixed. We have no adjustable rates or buy downs. A buy down would be buying points to bring the rate down.
Yeah, basically you're buying the rate down. 1% of the loan amount would, don't quote me on this, it's just an example. Uh, but let's say if your regular pricing or price of the money, the cost of money on the interest rate is 6.5%. It gets complicated. It gets really technical. And I'll be happy to talk to anyone. If you could call me, I'll spend whatever time I need to spend explaining this part. But basically, the short story is, if you're bringing down, if you want a 6% interest rate, but the market has the rate at 6.5, let's say you can pay 1% of the loan amount to bring that interest rate down from 6.5 to 6%. Many times I don't suggest it because you don't even get to break even on the initial investment, and it gets complicated. So yeah, I'll be happy to explain in detail or one-on-one. So.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. I am not seeing any other questions. So, with that, thank you again for your attendance. And as a reminder, we will have another Your Home Buying Keys webinar. The next one is on March 12th from 6:30 to 7:30. And please share that date with anyone you think would benefit. That could be yourself if you want to come to another one. It could be someone else you know who's interested in buying, anyone who is a soon-to-be home buyer in Maryland. We would love any feedback that you are all able to give us, please. And I am about to drop a link in the chat if you are able and interested in giving us feedback about how we can make this better for other future home buyers. We would love to hear it. I will also include this in the email I send out next week with the recording of this webinar. And as you already know, because you found us, is MarylandHomeownership.com is a wonderful resource to learn more about home ownership in Maryland. And with that, thank you all so much again, and we're wishing you all the best in your home journey. If you have any questions, please email us at webinar@mdrealtor.org. Thank you all so much.
Thank
All
you
right,
all.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.